even in the midst of this ministry friction, even in the midst of this conflict where Paul is afraid that this guy is not fully invested, that he's not going to engage in the ministry as he's called to, that God still uses and heals this tension over time. While Paul initially has this great mistrust of John Mark because he abandons them here, this doesn't prove to be a permanent distrust or a permanent frustration. The two actually end up reconciling before the book of Colossians, and Paul identifies John Mark in Colossians 4:10 through 11 as one of his fellow workers who has provided for, supported him, and comforted him in ministry. Additionally, we see that John Mark is further encouraged and is further presented as an ideal, if you will. When Paul is in his final imprisonment in Rome awaiting execution, Paul describes John Mark as useful in ministry. It- Here, Paul would say the exact opposite. He's useless in ministry. He's worse than useless. He has abandoned the ministry. And yet later in life, John Mark and Paul reconcile and say, hey, this guy's useful. The Lord is using him. And perhaps his most lasting legacy of someone who, if we just looked at here, would be like, this guy is not involved in ministry. He might have been briefly for a moment, but God's not going to continue to use someone so unfaithful. And yet, John Mark is the author of the Gospel of Mark, the first gospel to be written. And so even someone in this moment who Paul would say, this guy has nothing to do, nothing to offer in ministry. He's abandoned us on the shores where we're trying to get the gospel moving. I don't want anything to do with this guy. John Mark has lasting implications and ministry that continue to advance even to this day.